switch up a gear, go to something completely different, because it is Friday after all, right? Now, diagnose. I am delighted, really, to be joined by somebody that I've talked with in the past and very much enjoy his very popular series, Knowing the Narcissist. He is HG Tudor. He's a diagnosed narcissist. And for obvious reasons, HG has never disclosed his full identity. Welcome to the Sonia Poulton Show, HG.
Thank you, Sonia. Delighted to be here.
Wonderful to have you with us. So when I say for obvious reasons you've never disclosed your full identity, tell people what that is, if it's not so obvious to them.
I do certain things in my personal, private and professional life where if I were to admit what I actually was, that would cause me a problem. Hence, I don't reveal my identity. And I have another aspect of my life, which is educating millions of people about narcissism, which I do through this pseudonym HG Tudor.
And many of the people who watch your work consider you to be something of a public service, giving this really important, revealing insight into what appears to be a modern day phenomena. But it is hardly that at all. But at the moment, HG, we can't seem to move without bumping into a narcissist. There are a plethora of books and films available, so many videos available on YouTube. And there's a new book coming out about the 6 signs that people around you are narcissists. What to you are the most obvious signs that people are narcissists?
But it's very important to understand that you can't say that somebody is a narcissist just from a sole interaction. You need to look at a range of behaviors over a sustained period of time, because everybody has the capacity to behave in a similar way to a narcissist. For instance, being self-absorbed, being selfish, not taking accountability. And sometimes that can happen because there are external stresses in your life. You've lost your job, or you're under financial pressure, or your marriage has collapsed. So you have to look at a range of behaviors. But some of those behaviors include things such as never ever taking accountability for their actions and blaming somebody or something else. It's never their fault. Often the narcissist can be detected by what's known as love bombing. So this can happen in a romantic relationship. So this person wants to spend lots of time with you. They flatter you. They buy you gifts. They talk about how you're soulmates, how that they've loved you from afar for years, even though you didn't know. Other indicators that you may be dealing with a narcissist is that you have an individual that's very full of themselves, that they always have to boast, that they engage in a lot of competitiveness, a lot of one-upmanship. There's lots of different red flags that occur. I've written about them in one of my books, Red Flag, and also the abusive ones in Black Flag, which will help people understand. It is important to maintain sight of the fact that there isn't a sort of catch-all of, oh, if you see these 6 things, that definitely means you're dealing with a narcissist. It just means you might be, and it bears further examination.
And there is a process quite often, isn't there, with a narcissist? You talked about love bombing, and after love bombing, so love bombing is, I'm going to fly you to Paris and look, I'm going to buy you a completely new wardrobe, or however it manifests. But generally it is this sort of OTT display of affection, isn't it? And that then is, well, depending on how quickly you've managed to capture your prey, that's then followed by the discard, isn't it?
Well, there's another stage before that, actually, Sonia. So you have the seduction, and the seduction traditionally occurs in a romantic setting, but it can also happen where the narcissist is friends with you or a colleague. So they don't necessarily get physically intimate with you, but they will compliment you and flatter you and want to spend a lot of time with you. So you have this initial stage where you're painted white. And I call it the golden period, where everything about you is amazing. So the narcissist thinks you're the best thing since sliced bread. And then where you have a particular dynamic, for instance, between a narcissist and their romantic partner, you enter what's known as the sustained devaluation, and it all goes wrong. And all of a sudden, the narcissist won't talk to you, and the narcissist isn't returning calls like they once did.
Right, the devaluation is in between. Yes, you're right. Sorry,
right.
Apologise.
Yeah. And so you get different forms of devaluation. So you have the sustained devaluation between a narcissist and their romantic partner, but you can get what are called corrective devaluations, which are like a slap on the wrist, which will take place between, say, a narcissist and a friend, because they don't spend as much time with that friend. But the devaluing behavior that most people are familiar with in the narcissistic dynamic is where it takes place between the narcissist and the spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, etc. And then it following the sustained devaluation, there may be disengagement, or as some people call it, a discard. It doesn't always happen. Some people have the roller coaster and it goes on decades. In other instances, the narcissist just kicks you to the curb and walks off into the sunset with nary a glance over their shoulder.
I mean, I think it is absolutely fascinating. I'm fascinated by it. I did study psychology, but it does really, I find it so absolutely intriguing. Because we hear so much about narcissism these days, do you feel that we have an increase, or our awareness is just greater now?
Well, it is a term that's bandied around a little bit too freely at times, and some people misunderstand that. They think that just because somebody's behaved in the way that you don't like, that makes them a narcissist, and it's much more detailed than that. Also, one of the classic behaviors of a narcissist is to gaslight somebody, to cause them to question their reality. And we've also seen an increase in people using the term gaslighting, but they often use it incorrectly. So they talk about, oh, I've been gaslighted. Well, actually, no, you haven't. So we've had this increase in the terminology associated with narcissism entering more of the mainstream. And there are more narcissists than there used to be by virtue of two things. One, the population of the world is growing, so therefore, proportionally, there's going to be an increase in the number of narcissists that exist. But also, society has become more narcissistic and has created the conditions which allow for the creation of more narcissists. Also, it's a little bit similar to the reporting of, say, certain sexual offences that have always been there but have suddenly got greater prominence. All of a sudden, there's a greater spotlight shone on the concept of the narcissist because, as you pointed out at the beginning, Sonia, you can't go anywhere without bumping into them. Many famous people are. That's the reason they became famous in the first place, because it's such a honeypot for them. Many politicians are. And many of the people that I have assisted through my information, after I've helped them extricate themselves from a difficult situation, they invariably say, you know what, HG, I feel like I've been given the key to understanding so much about humanity and life, because now I see narcissism in so many instances. It helps me realize why that pop star self-imploded, why that politician made that decision to invade that country, because it's driven by their narcissism and what it encapsulates.
This is really important stuff. Stick with us, everybody. We're just going to go to some news headlines and we will be straight back with HG Tudor.
Today's News Talk Radio.
Check this out.
Now,
TNT Radio News.
Matt Boyland here with a look at your TNT headlines. Russian soldiers have boasted about destroying an American battle tank on the front lines in Ukraine. An Australian politician is calling on Canberra to follow Britain and stop giving puberty blockers to children.
You don't care about the welfare of these poor kids and their families. You're a bunch of sick puppies.
And anarchy erupted along the US-Mexico border in Texas on Thursday as dozens of migrants rushed National Guard troops and tried storming a border wall.
The common housefly, caught in the clutches of the spider's web. Every move it makes just makes matters worse. Then, dinner time.
feast on the captivating stories, videos, and helpful information on our website.
Whoa.
Dinner's ready.
Oh, man.
Escape is futile.
Just one more video.
Get stuck in our web.
TNT Radio.live.
Well, I'm here discussing the widespread of the kind of availability of narcissism and the terminology that also follows it. I'm with HG Tudor. He's a diagnosed narcissist, creator of the popular Knowing the Narcissist series. And we're just talking about how you can't seem to move without bumping into a narcissist. But as HG rightly points out, we are sometimes using this terminology incorrectly, which is why I've brought on an expert in the subject, because let's get us all straight on this. So HG, I don't think we can ignore the impact of social media when it comes to narcissism, right? Because when you see, obviously, like, well, you just see it all the time, don't you? Whether it's a Kim Kardashian or whomever, that seems like an awful lot of narcissism that is there on the page waiting for us. Am I wrong?
You're not, but social media is manna from heaven for the narcissist. Prior to it, we had to go about getting our victims in a more conventional way. Social media has provided so many advantages to the narcissist. First of all, it's extended our reach. So we're almost like that angler, the fisherman, that's got umpteen lines in the water waiting for a nibble from somebody. We can reach people in different countries. We can reach many people at the same time. We can, of course, with the presentation of certain things, reach millions of people all at once, cultivate a following, etc. It also enables certain narcissists, of course, in interactions one-on-one, to be something that they're not. We see this time and time again, where certain narcissists engage in scams to defraud people financially, that they pretend to be somebody else and they're not. And there's a recent instance of a Danish doctor whose picture and details have been used repeatedly by scammers, many of whom will be narcissists, to defraud people over social media by pretending to be him, drawing in middle-aged women who think they're getting into a relationship with a hunky Danish doctor who does all of the good work in Africa, etc. And so social media is very much a platform that enables the narcissist to extend the reach, but it also normalizes a lot of behavior that is inherently narcissistic. Right. So take for instance, the cult of the selfie. Once upon a time, when you went off somewhere on a trip, you took a photograph of the Spanish Steps, you took a photograph of the Colosseum when you were in Rome, and you might ask a local to say, would you mind taking a picture of me here, in front of the Trevi Fountain? But you didn't appear in all of the photographs. You took pictures of everything else. And then all of a sudden, because of the advent of the camera phone and the ability of somewhere to put it, social media, people started appearing time and time again. Here's me next to my spaghetti bolognese. Here's me outside Blackpool Tower. Here's me wearing an outfit. Here's me wearing a duck face. And the narcissists were the early adopters of this because it enabled the narcissist to control more people and draw in what I call fuel, an emotional response from people, by using the social media. And then what happens is non-narcissists see this behavior and think, oh, that's quite cool. I'll do it too, because of the herd mentality that exists with human beings. So doing the duck pout, doing the selfies, thinking it's appropriate to engage in lots of cosmetic surgery and then showing your bits on social media. Not only is it narcissists that start doing all of that, it bleeds into the mainstream. So it becomes more normalized, making it harder for people to realize that there are narcissists lurking because this behavior becomes more normalized.
It's just so mad, isn't it? When you break it down so simply, it makes absolute sense. Now, so my understanding is narcissists are not born, they're created. And generally, they're either created through negligence or a sort of overabundance of attention. Is that your understanding?
Essentially, that's right. You have to have a genetic predisposition and you have to have what's known as a lack of control environment. Put those two things together and you will create a narcissist. The lack of control environment covers a child being neglected, but it might mean a child being told that they're absolutely brilliant. They're in a gilded environment, that they're the best, even though they're actually not. It could be a child that's been physically or sexually abused. It could be a child that's told, well, you scored 2 goals. Why didn't you score 3? You got 70% in your examination. Why didn't you get 80%? I call it grade B syndrome. Good, but close, but no cigar. Good, but not brilliant. And all of those things combined with that genetic predisposition combine to create a narcissist, because the narcissist must have control. We have a hypersensitivity to control, that we pick up on things that ordinary people don't and perceive them through a distortion field as to whether it's a threat to control. So you and I are talking now, and obviously I can see you on the screen. So if I noticed that you were looking off camera and perhaps talking to one of your colleagues, that would wound me because your attention is no longer on me. I've lost control of you, and I'd have to do something to get you back under control.
Wow. So you feel you're controlling me right now. That's really interesting, because here's the thing, is that my understanding of narcissism, I think that I have to deal with several narcissists on a sort of semi-regular basis. And I think you probably just answered it in some respects. They all seem, the one common factor is they seem to be so easily agitated. Like they take the smallest slight, the smallest criticism they perceive as a humongous slight. Is that quite common?
It is. There are certain highly evolved, sophisticated narcissists that maintain the facade, so their irritation doesn't appear, and they go through it, and they're able to maintain that control. But many narcissists, the majority which are unaware, become agitated and irritated by that failure for you to be giving your full attention, because that threatens their control. And the response is often disproportionate to what's going on. It's the conventional making a mountain out of a molehill, because what lurks beneath the surface in a narcissist is this churning fury. And this fury is a device that compels the narcissist to get control. So what happens is you're having a conversation with a narcissist, and then you want to take a phone call. It's an urgent telephone call. Some people would think, well, that's a little bit rude, but it might be important, so I'll just wait for her to come back into the conversation. There we are. When you do that, you threaten that narcissist sense of control. And that fury suddenly comes to the surface to compel the narcissist to do something towards you to get that control. So they might say, what the F do you think you're playing at? Answering the phone when you're talking to me. That's bang out of order, Sonia. You go, oh, hang on a second. I was just taking a call here. There's no need to get so worked up about it. But they can't help it because the fury that exists is there. Because when you take your attention away from the narcissist, you make the narcissist feel unimportant, small, vulnerable, because there is that susceptibility, that threat to control. Because the narcissist grew up in a lack of control environment, the narcissism is a coping mechanism that helps them deal with those threats. So everybody needs a degree of control in their lives. Of course they do.
Sure.
But the narcissist is hypersensitive to those threats to the extent that the narcissism as a self-defense mechanism steps in. So that's why it makes the narcissist, in certain instances, quite grandiose in their behaviors. Look at me. Everybody. So if everybody's looking at me, I've got subconsciously, I have control over them. If I'm coming along and crying and saying, oh, I've got a fractured eyelash, my world's going to end, and somebody shows me sympathy, I've got control over them. So narcissists manifest in lots of different ways. The traditional image of the narcissist is the guy that's always looking in the mirror and flexing his biceps and going on about the new flash car. That's just one manifestation of the narcissist. But what the narcissist needs is control, fuel, something called character traits. So that's taking other people's personal characteristics and applying them to themselves. And things called residual benefits, which is like managing a facade, money, somewhere to live, etc. Every interaction between a narcissist and another person is governed by those prime aims, those four things. So as I'm talking to you, I must have control. Well, that's easy because you're listening to me, paying attention. I'll draw some fuel from this interaction because you're responding to what I'm saying. There's a residual benefit for me because my name's going in front of lots of other people over this broadcast. So my interaction with you isn't because that we get along. My interaction with you is driven by those prime aims, and it's the same for every single narcissist.
So narcissists, are narcissists in general empty? Because it seems like you rely on me in order to be able to feel good about yourself.
Yes, the narcissist is empty on the inside. There is this chasm, and the fuel that I talk about starts to fill the narcissist up. So that's why you will see, say a narcissist goes to a political rally and they've got all of their supporters cheering. You can see they're practically fizzing with power because they feel all of this fuel coming in. But if they're not getting that attention, not only does it threaten their need for control, but the emptiness starts to make its presence felt. And that becomes difficult for the narcissist. It's a sense of doom, a sense of anxiety that exists because of that emptiness.
This is absolutely fascinating. We've run out of time, which is absolutely a shame. And they're loving the fact that you're talking about narcissism while being a narcissist. Absolutely. If you want to talk about being a firefighter, go to a firefighter, I say.
Exactly.
Listen, really enjoyed this conversation. I know, which is quite bizarre because we're all supposed to hate narcissists, but I always enjoy my conversations with you. I find them thoroughly enlightening. Everybody, this is H.G. Tudor. He is from the Knowing the Narcissist series, and I urge you to check it out. It is very enlightening and highly entertaining and amusing. Take good care of yourself, HG. I'll be right back.
Thanks, Sonia.